Hey, everybody. If you did not hear that intro, put a one in the chat. Okay. Well, now I know what to do for next time. Perfect. All right. Sorry about that. It's been a long time since I've been live, so forgive me. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what my intro is, and if not, it's on every single other live. But welcome in. So I have not covered this case in quite some time, and the few times that I did, speaking of the Richard Allen trial in regards to the Delphi murders, it was so chaotic, right? Absolutely bananas. So I just decided to back away slowly and just sleuth like I always do on everything else on my own Z's, behind the scenes. Now that I know what I know and what I have seen others graciously do hard work on, so thank you for that. Shout out to All Eyes and Sleuthy Goosey and everyone associated. I can't not cover this case. I might as well, right? Hey, sweet dude shibby. Jeep girl, my girl. Hey, you know what? I am so thankful to have mods that are good people, decent people, treat others kind until you fuck up and mess around with your girl Eve. They might come out swinging, but I want to appreciate every single one of my mods for being awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I hate when, you know, people have mods that are just downright horrible people who like to start fights for no reason. I think we've all had our fair share. So shout out, especially to Heather, Jeep Girl, and Miss Rebug. You know who you are out there. So I appreciate you very much. Let me go and see who is here. Not very many people will be. I am not in the algorithm at all because your girl has a life. Kids, you know the drill. But I am going to be covering Richard Allen's upcoming appeal, which is what this whole live is about. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. Mino Dino, good to see you. I've seen you in Cryptic's chat before. Again, like I said, I came back from the shadows, if you will, to see what's going on with the Richard Allen case. And it's too much, but I'm here for it. I do believe personally that they have the wrong guy. I do not see any connection whatsoever to not only the crime scene, first of all, the timeline is off. The timeline is everything, right? And it's just not there for me. The state has made up continuous horrendous lies along with law enforcement. So we'll go into that another day and somewhat in this live. But that's where I stand. You don't have to stand there. You can stand all the way over into the guilty side, which is kind of lonely and sometimes pitiful because they really want you to want Richard Allen to be guilty for us innocent folks over here. I just don't see it, never will, until there's literal, actual, verified evidence. Can't trust some of these places in America who like to create chaos in every little single thing that they try to present, right? And this is one of those cases, in my opinion. But you are absolutely free to believe whatever you want over here. And as long as you're respectful, say what you want about it. I just don't see it in any way, shape, or form. And I do support this appeal 100%, 100%, but you don't have to. All right. Again, hi, sweet dude, Shibby. Heather Brown, welcome in, welcome in. Hit that like button while you're here. Haters in the back. You know you love me, or you at least love to hate me. Hit that like too. It's free. Of course, Jeep Girl. And I think I saw somebody earlier one of my haters. And then I think they deleted their message. That's fine. I see you. Welcome in, hater. All right. So what are we going to get into? Well, the first thing is, let me get this comment up, if it will. Shibby has a good comment. Shibby is good. Sweet dude, I never pictured talking to people when I chose this silly name. Oh, you're talking about your... I was going to ask you the same question. Like, what's your name about? What does that mean, bro? Because I don't know anybody. I'm actually just learning to who everyone is, and sometimes the drama will creep up on lives, and I'm like, what are y'all talking about? And then I'll have to go look, and it's like, oh God, because I don't know. I just don't know. It's just interesting. Kind of why I backed out of the whole case, because yeah, it is what it is. Should be like me and use your government name. Mino Dino. That sounds legit, 100%. I believe you. So where are we at right now? Well, in November of 2024, if you don't know, some of my viewers didn't follow the case either as hardcore, at least on YouTube. So in November of 2024, Richard Allen was convicted to 130 years for the murders and other miscellaneous crimes, I think. That was attached to that. So he is, I believe, still in Oklahoma. They transferred him from Indiana to Oklahoma, which is only like 2.5 hours for me. So defense, if you like, or the appeal attorneys, if you need your girl to do anything, you just let me know. I'm only 2.5 hours out. That's a long flight from Indiana or drive. Hit your girl up. Why not? And my dad lives like 4 hours away from here. I'm in Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas. And yeah, my dad's only like 1.5 hours or 2 hours from where he's at, Richard Allen. So it's not a big deal to me to take a trip if you need it. So since his conviction, there was a motion to correct errors in January of 2025 that basically lays out the whole meat and potatoes of what the defense was trying to provide the jury at the time, or what they should have been able to, in my opinion. Yet the state and the judge, Judge Gold, which is like Beverly Cannoni from Karen Reed case, but like on steroids, she's way worse than Judge Cannoni by a long shot. Judge Gold is a straight up cunt, and I will stand by that. And Nick McClelland, who is with prosecution and his cronies, it's just, the whole thing is just wild. I don't know why some people did not follow this insanity right during the trial and after the trial more so. And so that's what I'm doing here. Like, I'm trying to get everybody caught up because, again, people were like, oh, he's convicted. Who cares? Let's move on. And we cannot just settle on that. I can't. I know I can't. And I know that there's people in the audience that can't either. Or is just watching this shit show for funsies. But when is the court date for the appeal? Well, there's a hearing. I believe that the arguments are due on October 6th. But now that we have this motion, which I'll pull up here in a second, to basically tell Carroll County to provide all of that, all of the missing transcripts and exhibits that still have not been released. Now, I did hear recently that there was a few things released, but I'm not 100% on that. We'll look into it, right? But from what I'm understanding and looking at All Eyes on Delphi's work and what she's updated, I don't see a big change in them sending anything. So basically, Nick McClelland, the prosecutor, was like, kick rock or pound sand. So I made a little funny song for y'all to listen to later. Put it on my X. It's really hilarious. It's kind of like a techno song. It's a dance song. Anyway, so all of this shit is not has not been provided. It's supposed to be, in my opinion, available to the public. It looks like it, but they seal it. They won't unseal it. They won't hand it over to the defense. Now that there's an appeal, the defense, or not the defense, rather, the appellate attorneys are saying, we need this information from the prosecutor from Carroll County. Hand it over. So they are asking for the courts to force them to, which is very interesting. I didn't know that was a thing. So we'll see how that goes. Like, I don't even know the procedural part of Indiana on how that all works. If somebody else knows, or if somebody, I know Andrea has a good breakdown, one of the other creators who covers this case a lot, but yeah, that'll have to be something I dive into. All right, give me just a second. Let me open this up. Motion to correct errors. That's where we're going to start. We're kind of going to go all over the place right now because I have to reference some of the things that that the motion recently filed, I think, was it yesterday? We're going to have to work from there and backwards and kind of flip-flop. So give me just a second here. Un momento, por favor. Oh, hell, I muted myself. I'm sorry, y'all. I hate when I do that because dead air is like, it irks me. Sorry about that. So let's go through it real fast. This is the recent motion. Verified motion to compel transmission of exhibits and new due date. Comes now. Appellant Richard Allen by counsel, Mark Lehman and Stacey Uliana, excuse me, and hereby respectfully request this court issue an order to the Carroll County Clerk's Office to transmit evidence submitted with the following two motions. The motion for Frank's hearing, which is wild. We'll pull that up. Just to go over the nitty, not the nitty gritty, but summary. And the motion to correct errors. This is a very important one. I was reading this today in depth for the first time, like in depth. Holy shit. That's where the juice is, y'all. Somebody did not tell me. Because I was trying to find out, where are they pulling some of this information from, the people that are researching hardcore. And then I was like, oh, here it is. Here it is. So basically, the Frank's motion, which the defense offered a third-party culprit that was denied for Richard Allen, because Judge Bowl is the best. A lot of that trickles into these two motions, the motion for Frank's hearing and motions to correct error. Like, that's where the meat and potatoes are. My sound is vibrating. Why? Hold on. Vibrating. That's interesting. What about now? Is this better? No? Yes? What about now? Is that better? Testing. Don't tell me this. I've been having issues with this mic for a while. Not much. Okay. Well, not much I can do about it now. Yeah, I think it's because I have my AirPods now. I used to have a headset, and I've never had that issue until my AirPods. I wonder if that's the problem. I don't know. What about now? Is this better? What about now? This is going to irk me if I know that it's not fixed. Because apparently I can't be a co-host because of a shitty microphone or something like that. Is that better? I'm waiting for chat. Awesome. All right. I fixed it. All right, so we'll pull that up. The motion for Frank's hearing and a motion to correct errors. And here is the support of this motion. And I believe that there are exhibits from this motion to correct errors that I can pull up. On October 28, 2022, the state charged Allen with 2 counts of felony murder by kidnapping. And on March 22nd, the trial court granted the state's request to amend the charges to add 2 counts of murder. And on August 18, 2023, Allen filed a motion for Frank's hearing. Yeah, Jeep Girl. I'll tell you later. Allen filed a motion for Frank's hearing seeking to suppress evidence obtained pursuant to a warrant search of his home. Allen submitted several exhibits in support of that motion, including 126 documents and media exhibits and 7 depositions, which were tendered to the trial court in binders. These exhibits and depositions were identified in a list that, one moment, Eve is ill prepared today. No doubt about it. I've done lost myself. Oh, the exhibits and depositions were identified in a list that Allen attached to his motion. The list is attached to this motion to compel as attachment number 1. All right, on November 11th, following a 25-day trial, a jury found Allen guilty of 2 counts of murder. Oh, I guess that was just 2 counts of murder? Okay. On December 20th, 2024, the trial court entered an order sentencing Allen to an aggregate term of 130 years, which, if he were, in my opinion, actually guilty, cool, man. Honestly, I'm one of those death penalty years for the most part. But in this case, this is probably why we shouldn't have it, because some people who were innocent actually die for a crime they did not commit. On January 20th, 2024, Allen filed a motion to correct errors. In support of his motion, Allen filed 2 flash drives with evidence and media exhibits. The court denied the motion without a hearing. Ironically, on February 14, 2025, a notice of completion of transcripts was filed on July 7, 2025, which I don't know if anybody else who is not actively watching this case, you will see creators that had to go over the transcript or read them. And it's brutal. It's really brutal because nobody was able to watch the damn trial. And most of the pretrial hearings, I believe. So hopefully, if Richard Allen gets a new trial, which I believe he should, or the rarest of cases, they overturn the entire conviction, that'd be great. But that's probably not going to happen. That would be good at least to have a new trial. I think that he deserves it because of the egregiousness of the court and the judge and, of course, the state. So the exhibits identified in the attachment 1 and the flash drives identified in attachment 2 were not included in the transcript filed with the trial court. Allen cannot adequately file a brief without review of these exhibits. Allen requests that he be given 30 days from the date on which the docket shows, blah, 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 blah. So, I'm not sure if this will be seen on, I'm assuming that this will be discussed on the October 6th hearing. I'm not 100% on that. I would assume so. And maybe the judge will rule on it beforehand. I would hope so. That actually makes more sense. All right, so what the hell is all of this hoorah about the motion to correct errors? Well, in a minute, por favor, let me pull that up for you. And the exhibits. It's wild. I sincerely did not see this motion earlier. I just, sometimes you'll see these documents that people will combine on a drive for you, which thank you for that. But sometimes you just miss things when you're overwhelmed with this information that you missed, that you were behind on. So let's pull the defendant's motion for a hearing on motion to correct error. Let's do it. And hopefully they have the exhibits for it. Yep, there they are. I'm just going to pull them up real quick. I don't want that one. Hold on. My bad. That's not the one I want. There it is. All right. Defendant Richard Allen verified motion to correct errors. For the reasons that follow, the court should either vacate his convictions, which this was denied, by the way, obviously, or set the matters out below for a hearing. 1. In violation of the 6th and 14th Amendments, Mr. Allen was deprived of counsel at the safekeeping proceeding, which, if you haven't heard of this is so outrageous. This is probably something that pisses me off more than anything else. But many things do. But this was horrible. Mr. Allen was deprived of counsel at the safekeeping proceeding of November 3rd, 2022. That proceeding was a critical stage at which Mr. Allen was entitled to be represented by counsel and its progeny. The court must presume Mr. Allen was prejudiced by being unrepresented during that proceeding. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, what do you mean by that? Well, let's just break it down for the people that don't know almost anything with this case. Kathy Allen, who is Richard Allen's wife, gives her affidavit. She paid an attorney $5,000. Brett Gibson was his name, to represent Richard Allen. There was an email that she received from Mr. Gibbons' office acknowledging that she'd paid him. And then on the 27th of October, Mr. Gibson sent a letter by email to the Carroll County Sheriff and Nicholas McClelland, the Carroll County prosecutor, telling them, hey, we got him a lawyer, so stop talking, So Exhibit 1B is a copy of a letter, which we'll look at. And then about 10 o'clock that night, Mr. Gibson called me to say he would not be able to get my husband out of jail because he was going to be charged with murder the next day. Which was, wow. To me, that's very interesting because it kind of shows you that they had their eye on Richard Allen for maybe a day. And they were like, guilty as fuck. That's the guy. Because remember, for those that don't know, a tip just magically happened to fall into Kathy Shank's files, the little box that she was going through, all these tips, this spreadsheet, right? And she's like, I don't remember seeing that name. And that's how this all began. Well, kind of. Because right before that, law enforcement and the state, Nick McClelland, was like, let's just start anew. Let's just regenerate this case. Let's just get through it because election time is coming and I'm tired of this shit. So let's just find the best person that might fit the crime, perhaps, maybe, who was actually at the bridge, on the bridge that day, which Richard Allen does not contest. So, poor Richard was stepping into the snake's pit when they called him, in my opinion. All right. So there's that. What else happened? I don't think we need to go through the email. So basically, while I'm loading all of this shit up, from my understanding, someone at the jail, I think it was the warden, stated, or maybe the sheriff's office in Carroll County, that he needs to be protected, Richard Allen. And his rights were violated because there was no safekeeping hearing, and they just stuck him under an alias so that his attorney couldn't really talk to him, the Mr. Gibson man. So that was kind of egregious, and in my opinion, should be what you would start out with in the appeal arguments. In my opinion, that's just me. Who am I but just an asshole on the internet? But I'm gonna check in with chat before I go on, because I'm sure somebody's like, ma'am, you got something wrong. But I am doing my best. Hey, Quad Axle Mimi. Nice to see you. Welcome in. And thank you for bearing with me, everyone, while I get through this. I'm not a Delphi pro by any means. Go back to that. Carroll County Sheriff. So here's that letter that Kathy was saying. Please be advised that I have retained to represent Richard Allen in certain matters relating to an investigation being conducted by your office. It is my understanding that my client is being detained. Okay. By Carroll County Sheriff. He will not be given any statements regarding this matter. He is not talking to you. And it's almost like they ignored the whole thing. Which is just, I cannot wrap my head around that. The audacity. And I'm not shaming Mr. Gibson, but I just felt like nobody was really fighting hard enough. I guess $5,000 doesn't get you very far, and I'm not trying to be ugly. But I mean that. It doesn't get you far at all. So let's see what one of the defense attorneys, Brad Rossi, who I adore, what did he say on his affidavit? I am a lawyer who, with a law practice in Logansport. I didn't know he practiced in actual Logansport. Wow. And have been a lawyer in good standing in Indiana since I was admitted to the Indiana bar in 2022. So since November of 2022, I have been the attorney for Richard Allen, who is the defendant under this cause number. In an attempt to learn whether Richard Allen's first attorney, Brett Gibson, had communicated with Nick McClelland, or then Sheriff fucking Toby Lesenby, excuse me, or any other law enforcement officer concerning the fact that he, Gibson, was representing Richard Allen, effective October 26, 2022, I reached out to Brett Gibson via email asking him a series of questions. That's what you gotta do in Indiana. No offense to anyone that lives there. One of my mods does. But, damn, get it together. The purpose of my inquiry was to determine whether Nick the Stick McClelland, Lesenby, or any other law enforcement officer was aware that beginning on the 26th, that attorney Brett Gibson was representing Richard Allen after his arrest, Richard Allen's arrest, on the 26th. Gibson responded to Rossi's email inquiry and indicated that indeed Richard Allen had retained Gibson following Richard Allen's October arrest. A copy of said email, which is marked as Defendant's Exhibit 1D, pull that bad boy up. Let's see what he's got to say. Hi, Brad. Attached is a letter I sent to the Carroll County Sheriff's Office and an email I sent to Nick McClelland. This was in January 19th, one day before the motion to correct error. That's wild. Fucking wild. Did you ever communicate in any way with the prosecutor or any law enforcement officials before Richard's arrest? No. Did you ever communicate in any way with the prosecutor or any law enforcement officials after Richard's arrest? Yes. Okay. So the day after his arrest, Kathy notified me that Richard had been arrested. We sent a letter to the Carroll County Sheriff notifying them of my representation. The sheriff confirmed receipt over the phone. Boom. All right. That's important. sorry that we had to go the long way through this, but like that right there, tells you all you need to know. The sheriff, I mean, Lesenby, confirmed that receipt. Now, I don't remember exactly off the top of my head what he responded to, and I don't know what he said in the deposition, the 2023 deposition. I don't know, but that's going to be interesting to dig into. I'm going to check him in chat before I go on because I see it moving a little. You're doing great, Eve. Fake it till you make it. Shivy, preach. That's exactly right. That's what I'm doing. That is what I'm winging it. Winging it. So, however, the jail advised that Richard was not an inmate. Like I said, he was under an alias. Why? Who would do such a thing? Why would you do such a thing? Is that appropriate? Is that procedural? Is that something that they do often? I don't know. We'll have to go into that. I already know the answer, but I don't have time to go into it. But for the people that do not follow this case, they're going to be interested in that. I contacted Nick McClelland by email. He called me on my cell phone afterwards. He advised me that Richard Allen was in the Carroll County Jail and that they had him listed under a different name, an alias, also known as. He arranged for me to meet with Richard at the jail that evening. Someone from the sheriff's office took me to a meeting room in the jail. That's not shady at all. Not even a little. Let's talk in here in the shadows. It appears that regular jail staff did not know Richard was there. Huh. What was he doing? Who had him? What was he being given? Was he being locked into a hole in the ground? Like, who knows? Let me know if you have any questions. That was very interesting to me. So, Lesenby, that is a if I were Richard Allen or Kathy Allen, and I could get away with some kind of lawsuit civilly, oh man, you'd be the first on my list. Abso-fucking-lutely. Sorry, I just had a coughing fit. Damn. Nick, I have been retained to represent Richard Allen. Here's the email. Doot doot. That's all we need. All right, so let's move on. Furthermore, in his email response, Attorney Gibson stated that Gibson communicated with Nick McClelland and then also was contacted by email and phone and alerted McClelland that he was in fact Richard Allen's attorney. We just went over that. And then dumbass Lesenby, let's see what they have to say about him. So that McClelland helped arrange a meeting with Attorney Gibson and Richard Allen at the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, and that said meeting did in fact take place between Richard Allen and Attorney Gibson. And that furthermore, Attorney Gibson advised Allen not to discuss his case over the phone. Did he beforehand at any point in time that anyone can prove? That's a good question. Probably not. I mean, it probably happened, but I highly doubt that the state would be forthcoming with it if it did exist. So I have attempted to gain Attorney Gibson's affidavit concerning the things he stated, but have not been able to do it at this time. Fucking insane. Why does everything have to be so? Where's my beep beep? You know me. I'm trying not to cuss on here, and if I do, I try to beep it out, but I'm very unsuccessful. But anyway, why does everything have to be so goddamn difficult here in this case? Everything is difficult. Every single fucking thing is so ridiculously, stupidly difficult. not for the state, for the defense and for Richard Allen. It blows my mind, truly. So let's continue. Indiana governs safekeeping proceedings for pretrial detainees. So this kind of gives the policy, right? And provides in full upon motion by the sheriff, prosecuting attorney, defendant or his counsel, attorney general, and court. Alleging that an inmate in a county jail awaiting trial is in danger, which is what the sheriff did, of serious bodily injury or death or represents a substantial threat to the safety of others, the court shall determine whether the inmate is in imminent danger or serious bodily injury or death, or represents a substantial threat to the safety of others. If the court finds that the inmate is in danger of getting his ass whooped or death, or represents a substantial threat to the safety of others, like Odinus literally stalking you and making you feel insane, perhaps, like Odinus that are prison guards, perhaps, I don't know. It shall order the sheriff to transfer the inmate to another county jail or to a facility of the Department of Correction designated by the commissioner of the department as suitable for the confinement of that prisoner and provided that space is available. For the purpose of this chapter, an inmate is not considered in danger of serious bodily injury or death due to an illness or other medical condition. What if it was induced by staff? Like, what if they got shot in the ass with a Toradol or something because they were just Looney Tunes? Does that count? Probably not. So another rule under the safekeeping proceedings for pretrial detainees states that the inmate or receiving authority is entitled to post-transfer hearing upon request. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the bigger issue. The biggest issue in this specific instance of the safekeeping hearing that didn't happen for Richard Allen. The inmate may refuse a transfer if the only issue is his personal safety. That's what the hearing is for, to see, kind of work out the details and put on record, by the way, what's going on. Like, you want that. Not only does Richard Allen want that, but the sheriff or whoever is initiating this shit, they would want that on record to cover their ass. But I guess that's the question, is why didn't they? Hi, Miss Ruba. Good to see you, love. Welcome in. I need to give you a wrench. I don't know why I didn't. But when I have a moment, I will do that. Samantha Springman. Hello. Samantha Springman. Hellcat. Hey, girl. Who am I missing? I don't think I missed anybody. Okay. Moving on. Mr. Allen was interrogated and arrested. They keep repeating this shit. On October 26th and booked into the Carroll County Jail under a pseudonym. Does anybody know what that is? Sincerely? Is it in here somewhere? Because I didn't know if it was. The next day, Kathy, which is Richard's wife, hired attorney Brett Gibson, blah, blah, blah. We already know that. What emerged from Defendants Exhibits 1C and 1D is the following. Sheriff Lesenby, that fuck, confirmed receipt of Mr. Gibson's letter by telephone the evening of the October 27th. Also, however, over the phone, someone at the Carroll County Jail told Mr. Gibson that Mr. Allen was not an inmate because of that pseudonym. So I don't know how many times I have to repeat this because it's kind of in the motion. It kind of feels like a setup that they didn't want people talking to Richard Allen. And then later on, they're going to say, we didn't mean any harm by it. It was just an issue. Or whatever. You'll see in a minute. To the response to this. So, I'm going to skip all this. All right, at about 10 p.m. that I will cover this. At 10 p.m. that night, Gibson tells Richard to say he would not be able to get him out because they're going to arrest him for murder, 2 counts of murder. And then the next day, on the 28th, without Mr. Gibson present, even though McClelland and Sheriff Lesenby both knew Richard Allen was represented by Mr. Gibson, and he was charged with 2 counts of murder. And Judge Diener, I always get it wrong, held Mr. Allen's initial hearing. Shortly after his initial hearing, 2 days after he was arrested for 2 counts of murder, or 1 day, Mr. Allen was whisked away from the Carroll County Jail to the White County Jail without a safekeeping order authorizing the transfer. On November 1st, 2022, a letter from Mr. Allen was mailed from the White County Jail to the Carroll Circuit Court. The letter and the envelope are part of the record in this case. In that letter, Mr. Allen requested that the court appoint counsel for him. Nothing in the letter indicated he was not already represented. For some reason, that's always a thing in this case. Somehow some shit went down and the state never wants to own any of it. Any of it. You'll see this little "for some reason" all the time. Although it had sufficient postage and was correctly addressed to the Carroll Circuit Court, Mr. Allen's letter requesting the appointment of counsel was returned. This happens a lot, guys. In the Michael Vaughn case, there's a suspect named Stacey Wandra, who, if you don't know about the Michael Vaughn case, it's okay. It's a missing boy from Fruitland, Idaho, and there are 4 suspects they're probably trying to pin it on, right? And he gets his stuff returned all the time for some reason. And I guess it's because they just don't care. They don't care if the mail gets to them or not. So it's not out of the norm. But in this case, it might be. It was returned to the White County Jail. It was then remailed from there and is shown filed in this court on November 9th, 2022. That was an error. Yeah, it was. It was definitely an error. Under the mailbox rule, as a matter of law, Mr. Allen's letter was considered filed because it's on the date that it was sent out. What is it called? The postage date, right? Or the stamp date. The prison mailbox rule recognized by the Supreme Court provides that pro se filings from an incarcerated litigant are considered filed at the time they are delivered to prison authorities for forwarding to the court. We all know if we have people that are either up in the jail or, working cases where you have to speak to people that are waiting for their, hearing or whatever it may be. It's not uncommon, like I said, for shit to bounce back all the time because the court's just for whatever reason. The safekeeping proceeding was plainly illegal from start to finish. First, Sheriff Lesenby, that fuck, transferred Mr. Allen to the White County Jail on October 28, 2022, with no safekeeping order in place. Next, Sheriff Lesenby had no standing to make the safekeeping request on November 3rd, 2022, due to the fact that Ricky had been illegally transferred to the White County Jail on the 28th. They just whisked him away after meeting with Gibson. Now, does anybody else feel odd about that? About Mr. Gibson just being like, whatever, I got my $5,000, I'm good? Or am I wrong on that and I'm jumping to conclusions and there's another reason for that? Somebody let me know, because I haven't seen anything else on this, but I think it's very odd. I don't know. That's just me. Postmark date. Thank you, Quad. Yes, that. Thank you. So yeah, that absolutely was plainly illegal. So because Sheriff Lesenby had no standing to make the safekeeping request, Judge D had no jurisdiction to consider it. Because Judge D had no jurisdiction to issue it, the safekeeping order was literally void. I agree. A judgment is void if it grants rights or relief to a party that does not have standing to pursue the action. So, like, oh my God, this is just one of so many issues in this case. But this is a big one because from here on out, like, his mental health goes down. His rights were violated even more so, in my opinion, beyond that. I mean, he was being recorded when he was speaking to his defense team. They were being recorded when they were speaking to each other. It just goes from shit to worse shit as we go from this point. And it snowballs. Nothing about this case involving Richard Allen makes sense. I know when we were sitting there watching, when I went to come visit you, Jeep, and I watched that, I really thought that I had been up to date. So thank you, Miss Ma'am, for making me watch that series on Hulu because I mean, I'm pretty sure she could tell you that I was bad at cleaning, doing dishes, like for her at her house, trying to understand this. I really, I realized that I was so misinformed by so many people, including the murder shits. And that's unfortunate. Quad says, true, Thief, I agree. The attorney Gibson gave up too easily. Then again, he may have been aware of who he had to deal with. Maybe so. That's a good point. Maybe he was already like, McClelland, what do you want? And I'll do it. I'll take my 5,000 and I'll skedaddle. Just, what do you want? It's a good point. So the second issue is Mr. Allen had the right to have a judge other than Judge D decide whether to issue a safekeeping order at Lesenby request. That's because Judge D had engaged in this one really gets me. Engaged in ex parte communications, meaning outside, excuse me, outside the presence of court with Sheriff Lesenby, helping that asshole draft his safekeeping request in violation of this rule or some shit. So, this rule, whatever that was, prohibits judges from drafting or reviewing documents except for family members. Boom. Second violation. Well, actually, third. In that little window of time. Wow. Wow. Judge T also violated this code by engaging in substantive ex parte communications with Lesenby, which helping that asshole draft the safekeeping order certainly were. Having violated these rules, Judge D was supposed to recuse himself and request appointment of a special judge before he issued the safekeeping order, not after, which is what he did. My God, like, it really just trips me out every time I come back to this, how he had no chance, guys. Richard Allen had no chance of being able to defend himself. Nope. He was locked down, turned around, spin upside down, and spit out from day one of them questioning him again. And you have to remember that this case is from 2017. Those poor girls were murdered on February 13th of 2017. And they come back around and question Richard Allen on in 2022, October 26th. That's a long ass time. That's 5 years of trying to remember what you said and what you did. I mean, who knows? But to be honest with you, when you watch the interrogation, I don't think that he, in my opinion, said anything incriminating, even though people will just hone in on one or two things that could be completely unrelated, and their bias. Their biases are showing. Yeah, so sad for anyone intro to the case by the yeah. People would be outraged at the agreements made over 3 martini lunches at quiet, dark watering holes. Amen. Amen. That's exactly right. The Hulu special was so good. Yeah. Oh, I was hot. I don't know if you saw. I was manic as hell. But I did your dishes, so that's good. Richard Allen was their scapegoat. Absolutely. Yep. All right. I'm not going to go really deep into this, but the safekeeping hearing, I share the same sentiment with Andrew Baldwin and Miss Jennifer. Like, I think this is one of the stronger indications of egregiousness. Like, start out strong. Like, let's go down the list, shall we? To me. And hell, I have not spent a day in law school. I would love to. I would love to be an attorney. That's kind of what I want to do. But I know enough with the appellate courts, especially in all of the cases that I've covered, that you want to start off strong, or at least end strong. But the little bitty egregiousness that connects the dots to the big picture of his conviction, like, this is the one to start with, in my opinion, because that's the beginning of the end for him. So it just makes sense. So hopefully we'll hear that. So third, Sheriff Lesenby, on November 3rd, 2022, request by the Sheriff of Carroll County, Indiana, to transfer inmate from the custody of the sheriff to the custody of the Indiana Department of Corrections for safekeeping was not served on anyone. What? Well, why not? There was no certificate of service attached. But why? Why not? He doesn't deserve that. Why not? That's strange. Requires a safekeeping request to be made by motion. And that didn't happen. 3, required that Lesenby motion for safekeeping order be served on the parties because Lesenby knew that Mr. Gibson was representing Mr. Allen, and he was required to serve him with his motion for a safekeeping order, which is, again, so strange to me that Gibson was like, whatever, I'm not going to fight anything. I got my $5,000. I'm going to move on. Like, fuck you, Mr. Gibson. I'm sorry. This is not right. Even if he claims Mr. Gibson was not representing Mr. Allen at the time, Sheriff Lesenby was required to then serve Mr. Allen personally. Chicken shit, go do it yourself. That's your job. You're the sheriff. That's what you do. And why didn't you? So forth. Sheriff Lesenby's safekeeping request was not verified. There was therefore literally no evidence before Judge D from which he could make any factual finding required by this code that would authorize a safekeeping order. So that's a wrap to me. That's it. You don't even need 5th and 6th, but let's put salt in the wound. Because a factual finding was required to authorize this order, a hearing with notice to the parties. Lesenby, his safekeeping request was required and he didn't have it. He didn't file it, didn't serve it, didn't do shit. 6, and perhaps most importantly, Mr. Allen had an absolute right to say, fuck your order. I don't need no safekeeping. I'm quite all right. And it's ironic that now, at this point in time, right at the beginning, when they wanted him to have a safekeeping for whatever bullshit reason, later on when he actually needed one, that didn't happen for him. This is how backwards this shit is to me. And I'm not trying to sway anybody from listening to me, but I will tell you how I feel about this because it's just that obvious to me that this was the patsy that they needed to be convicted. They needed Richard Allen to be convicted. And you could see it from the jump, in my opinion. So he had an absolute right to refuse being transferred to the custody of the department. And Lesenby, his safekeeping request allegedly no statutorily authorized basis for this order, other than a concern for Mr. Allen's personal safety. If the reason for a safekeeping transfer is only a defendant's personal safety, like we want to make sure nobody whoops his ass in here because this is a very high profile case and we don't want him to get hurt. Richard Allen needs to say, I'm good, fam, or I agree. Like, he has the right to say, back, give me 50 feet, or, yeah, you're probably right. I should probably be under all of these things. But let's not forget, like, the biggest thing was that somebody told his lawyer that he was not there. And I think that right there, Mr. Gibson, is an issue because you knew damn well that he was there. Did Kathy Allen not tell you that? She admitted it in her affidavit, in her sworn statement that y'all worked this out after you got her 5K. I hope she gets that 5K. Kathy, I hope you get your 5K back, girl. I really do. You won't, but maybe one day. It really pisses me off how these lawyers do people. That's just me. Big fish, small pond. Hello, hello. Welcome in. All right. Rant over. Mr. Allen had no opportunity to exercise his right to refuse the transfer to the Indiana Department of Corrections custody or to make any of the objections set out. He didn't have the right to refuse that safekeeping hearing. And because of that, he was not able to dictate anything that happened in regards to his what he said and what he did in that jail. Like, there's a lot of problems here. It just snowballs. Like, how could you not, as an appellate attorney or a judge rather, not see how this is just, but that's not how they work. So they're going to look at what the appellate attorneys are going to hone in on as the issue, right? Yeah, you could put multiple things in there, like, this is why this happened and this is the cause and effect, but they're looking to see if it didn't happen otherwise. Is this egregious enough? And that's kind of what I'm worried about. How are they going to see this when they're looking at or listening to the argument? And I don't know how to spin it any other way. Like, there's no way to. You could be theatrical as fuck, but I don't think that they're gonna care. They're wanting to know what the judge did wrong, basically. Like, how did the judge err? And he did. No, don't get me wrong, but it didn't start with the judge. It started with law enforcement, and rarely do they blame the judge for that. Especially if they thought that they were being told the truth and they lied. Like, it's very complicated. So he had no opportunity to exercise his right to refuse that transfer or make any objections to set out above the entire course of the proceeding. Mr. Allen, either personally or through his lawyer, Mr. Gibson, had no notice of the legal skullduggery. I love that word. Skullduggery. Sweet dude Shibby is into some skullduggery from time to time on X, like me. And it's fun. That would land him in solitary confinement at the Westville Control Unit, Wabash Valley Correctional Facility. God, that was a mouthful. And Cass County Jail for 23 months pending trial. 23 months! Because Mr. Allen had no notice of what was afoot, neither he nor his lawyer could make any of the arguments that would have necessarily prevented Mr. Allen's transfer. I want to say well done to the attorneys, to the defense attorneys, for documenting and making this on record. Like, it's wonderful. They did an excellent job knowing damn well that they needed to lay out every appeal issue possible. Like, lay it out. Make a timeline. They did an excellent job. I am onto you. I am. So finally, Mr. Allen's own absence from the safekeeping proceeding should be treated no differently from the absence of a lawyer to represent him. And the courts hold pro se litigants to the same standards. Yeah. All right. It's a violation. His rights were violated. Definitely. I love this little footnote. The court need not speculate whether safekeeping proceedings have serious consequences for an accused, in addition to being moved hours away from his lawyers for over 23 fucking months, 2 years, guys. Mr. Allen was unconstitutionally kept in solitary confinement and was shackled, leashed, and hooded and deprived of human contact. And everyone wants to know why he confessed, quote unquote, over 61 times. Wouldn't you? I would be goo goo gaga, like just foaming out the mouth if I knew that I was getting, first of all, ramrodded by the people outside the jail, the state. Yeah. And he's had a history of mental illness. Poor guy. I mean, this was just like the trifecta of fuckery. God, I feel so bad for him. I still do. That is torture. Absolute torture. So, as a consequence of that torture, Mr. Allen became psychotic. No fucking shit. We've all heard about the eating the, poop, the shit. He was just that, like, nobody normal does that, so, in their mind. Nobody would do that unless you were really just losing your effing mind. Period. And I don't think there was any history of him doing that beforehand. And it didn't faze the jury enough. That's really scary to me. Like, some of you guys could put somebody away. It's fucking terrifying. A jury of your peers. That's terrifying. Mr. Allen became psychotic short of his death. It is hard to imagine more serious consequences for Mr. Allen flowing from the November 3rd safekeeping proceeding. No kidding. No kidding. The irony in that. He was not afforded either the right to be heard by counsel at this safekeeping proceeding. This should be particularly disturbing because he had been given the opportunity to do so. Mr. Allen had an absolute personal right to refuse it. So that kind of proves what he was saying earlier. Absolutely. In either case, the court should vacate it. That would be enough for me. I really believe that. I mean, it just proves that it was he was the patsy. We all have to go along with it. And hire shills for marketing reps and then make a bunk ass book over it and grift. Yeah, I said it. And I don't care. So, in violation of the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, a very important one, the state presented the testimony of Brad Weber that Mr. Weber arrived home in his white van about 2:30 p.m. on February 13th, either knowing that testimony was false before it was elicited or failing to correct it once it had been elicited. This, we could go on for hours and hours and hours. Mr. Weber was actually like my number one back in the day for a while. But it always went back to Rod Abrams and Brad Holder and excuse me, Elvis Fields. When that came about, it was like, oh hell yeah, that's it. No doubt, no doubt. And I still kind of do. But I think that there are others that are not named. And I think that the cell phone data will probably out that maybe one day. I don't know. We shall see. So what about the van? If you're not familiar with this case, there is a video of Mr. Weber who lives like literally if you step out onto his porch, you could see the crime scene area, either the back porch or where the garage is, something like that. And he also has outhouses, which is really crazy, and buildings. And I think they didn't let on that. I can't remember exactly if Brad Weber if they allowed the search of the outhouses. I can't remember. I'll have to look into it, but I think he was. No, I'm not going to say that because I don't know for sure 100%. I'm questioning myself too much. At trial, the undisputed evidence was that Liberty German cellular telephone stopped moving at 2:18 p.m. on that day. for 7 minutes until 2:25. So crucial. So crucial. It then started moving again and stopped moving permanently at 2:32. In closing argument, Mr. McClellan called it a hard fact that Liberty's phone stopped moving at 2:32, but we know differently now. We know differently. The state introduced an alleged confession by Richard Allen and this bitch, Dr. Monica Walla, a psychologist contracted by the Indiana Department of Corrections to treat inmates at Westville Correctional Facility. In this alleged confession, this bitch, Dr. Walla, stated Mr. Allen said he had abducted Liberty German and Abby Williams. So this is an issue, right? This is where all of the non-cranks, the RA is guilty crew, like that, they got him. Not only his jail confessions, but specifically Dr. Monica Walla. And this bitch has done some bullshit. You'll see. So, in this alleged confession, Dr. Wallace stated that Richard Allen said he abducted the girls on the south side of the bridge and forced them down the hill to the south side of Deer Creek. Deer Creek. Dr. Wallace said Mr. Allen said he was on the south side of Deer Creek and was planning on essaying the girls when he was interrupted by a van. Now, this is not what he said at all in his interrogation. He said that he was gone by probably 1:30ish, which is about right. I believe that. So, how could that have happened if he was in the woods? And they did not connect Richard Allen, any kind of cell phone pings to Richard Allen, by the way. So, Mr. Allen said he became scared when he saw the van and crossed Deer Creek from south to north from the Weber property to Rod Logan's property, taking the girls with him. Now, was this recorded? No. Did she take notes and she kept them? No. She didn't do that. Was she talking on podcasts to other people about this case early on? Yeah, she was. She was looking into them. Absolutely. So that's a problem. I'm going to check in with chat before we move right along. Not to mention the Hadol cocktails. No shit. And you know, there are people out there that have a certain, I looked into this. There are certain people out there that have either a certain blood type, or something along those lines, like plasma or something, that interacts, Haldol interacts with their brain, literally short circuits their brain into hallucinations and psychosis very rapidly and quickly. It's almost like having an allergic reaction every time they shoot you up with that. And it reminds me of somebody that I knew that they had accidentally overdosed somebody on something similar to Haldol. In where I'm from, in Texas, the state mental institution. And they just assumed that it was an oopsie daisy, but then they did it again. So then they found out, oh, there's an ingredient in this that they're allergic to. And so it just kind of reminded me of that. And I think that this is exactly what happened. Like, this poor guy, how many times can you just be railroaded? But that's just my opinion. I don't know. The state also introduced the testimony of Brad Weber that he left work at the Subaru factory at 2:02 p.m. and arrived home in his white cargo van about 2:30. Now, I'm not going to go through all of his testimony today, but let's just say that this was a back and forth, and there was issues in trial where he was kind of caught not being honest and also not getting his facts straight and being kind of defiant about it, which I understand. If you're actually innocent of a crime, I would be too. But he was going quite fast on the drive home, and he went in a different way than he normally would on this particular day. So Brad Weber is not, in my opinion, ever excluded in my head. I don't know how he could be. Richard Allen also confessed to cheating on his wife with a cigarette. It's not funny, but when I first heard of this, I didn't understand the gravity, and yeah, it's kind of funny, but it's not funny because he was really under the Haldol cocktail for sure, and maybe other things. Who knows? So Brad Weber's still sus. I don't care. But they do have security camera. That's the white van that everybody was talking about when it first came out. And there was a suspicious man at the same house that the camera was, that Brad Weber's van was caught on. There was a suspicious man at like 8:45, I think, that morning, just walking around checking things out. And we never got to see that. Why wasn't that turned over? Who knows? Oh, here's the YouTube link. Let's watch it. I don't think there's any sound at all. It's so hard to see, too. But it basically just comes across the screen, like at what? Right here? I have to zoom in, and I have that video somewhere. I just don't have time. But it's this video. It's this one. You can barely see it. Is this the zoomed in one? Oh, yeah. Never mind. Duh. I have it to where it's like inverted, where you can see it better. And it looks like a little hot red pink van traveling along a white background. You really see it. Why is this not working? There we go. There it is. Whee! I'm Brad Weber, just traveling along, going through a driveway on private property. His private property, well, his mom's and daddy's private property that he usually doesn't do. But today he does. Now remember, their cell phone permanently stops at 2:32, which is not true. And he's coming home at around 2:30. So he says. Originally. And that's that. I mean, I don't know what to think of that. Like, it doesn't catch him doing it. You don't see the girls in the car screaming for help. You don't see any of that. So what do you do with this? I've never been able to really, like, I don't even cover it. It really just pisses me off because there's nothing you can really do with this except for try to piece together timelines and pings and all that shit. And, we don't have that. We don't have all of that. So what can we do but speculate? Hello, Shiloh. Okay. So I'm going to skip all of this. It's a good point. I just don't think it's going to have any weight except for Dr. Wallace's egregiousness. That's a good thing to point or hone in on rather than Brad Weber and his white van. I don't think it's going to sway that judge at all. I would be surprised if it even shows up in the argument. I don't know. That's just me. So this is kind of interesting. The FBI subject information sheet for Mr. Weber then both exhibits constitute newly discovered evidence that would probably produce a different result at a new trial. That is important. So if the courts were to find that the state did not know or should not necessarily have known about Exhibit 3A, which is what is it, the actual video of the van? Yeah. Then of his actual arrival time, what they're trying to say here is that maybe a new trial would set off a different result, or there would be a different result if a new trial came about. And maybe, but I don't know how appellate judges look at that, because I ain't one. But it's a good point. I don't know. What do y'all think? Do y'all think the white van has any weight for an appellate judge to be like, oh, okay, totally get a new trial, right? I don't think so. Shyla says, in my opinion, they kept him on Haldol so he could not appear at the fast and speedy trial that he was trying to get right. Right? I agree. So, not the strongest, in my opinion, but maybe they disagree. So, Ron Logan's confession to Ricky Davis, Reese Davis, before May 15th. That's important. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Is newly discovered evidence entitling Mr. Allen to a new trial. Now, just summarizing here, All Eyes on Delphi knows a lot more than I do. And I had the bold ass opinion of putting on X. I don't know about Reese Davis. Like, I don't know how I feel about him. Maybe he's just trying to get commentary. And everybody was like, ma'am, who are you? And I was like, oh, wait, let me back up. I'm not trying to jump to conclusions. I'm just telling you how I feel. Honestly, that's not how I may feel in the future. Somebody give me something, because I don't know. And then people were directing me to the right information. And then I was like, oh my God, hell yeah. That's a big deal. This is a huge deal, because this also kind of includes Keegan Klein. It absolutely involves Keegan Klein, because allegedly they conspired together to murder Abby and Libby. And they confessed to Mr. Davis in jail. And the things that Reese Davis said were specific, like the box cutter. Nobody knew about how they were killed at that time. That was way in the beginning. So this is a big one, but I'm not going to go into it too much because I'm running out of time. Because I do want to get into like the biggest issues that I have with how the trial went, and I think that, in my opinion, only what the biggest takeaways are that I think the appellate judges, from my research, my stupid research as a stupid person in Texas, looking at the case law, looking at how judges rule on and rule in favor of in the past, like however long, 5-10 years. And then also looking at the judiciary committees, who are they buddies with, and how do they rule on trial court matters. Like, I have a conclusion on what I think is the biggest takeaway, because I think that it's more simple than people realize. Dr. Kaur was the forensic pathologist who conducted the autopsies of the girls. And his original opinion, held for years, about how they died was that 2 weapons were used, one a serrated blade and the other a straight edged blade. And this is kind of where Brad Holder, everybody jumps straight to that because of his knives posted on Facebook, which is totally legitimate. Why wouldn't you? Like, hello. But it could be anybody too, right? Anybody in the world with a knife or a box cutter. So for the first time at trial, having had a eureka moment at his tool bench, eureka, Dr. Gore opined that the girls could have been killed by a single box cutter rather than 2 different knives. Yeah, brilliant. So, as attested by Matthew Hoffman in Defendant's Exhibit 4, is a redacted copy of a tip from the Orion database of tips dated May 15th, 2017, which I believe is just where they house all the tips at the state police and maybe local police. In that tip, which the state has always had, always had, this is huge. The state has always had this tip dated May 15th, 2017, early on. The defense never got this information naturally, organically by the state. That's the problem here. Ron Logan is alleged to have confessed to Reese Davis sometime before May 15th, 2017, that year, months after the girls were murdered, while they were in prison together, and that he, Ron Logan, had killed the girls. The material, part of Ron Logan's confession to Reese Davis, basically it's Reese Davis letters to Nick McClelland, I believe, in this exhibit, is reproduced below. Logan confessed to Reese step by step of killing the two girls. Logan and Reese, how he burned his clothes in a fire pit and where it was located. Used box cutters and struggled with one of the girls and thought drops of blood from his nose ended up on her clothes. Reese also advised that he killed the older girl first. But Mr. Allen, Rick Allen, said that he shot the girls in the back and then buried them in a grave, which it didn't happen. We all know it didn't happen that way, so that is a big one to me. His confessions are all over the place. Neither of the girls were shot in the back, and neither was buried in a shallow grave. That was called a psychosis, a psychotic break, right? Samantha, there was so much faith put into Bridge Guy, yet the state never tied him into the crime with proof of evidence and never proved that Richard Allen was Bridge Guy. That's a huge one. That pretty much sums up a big issue. That's kind of where I'm getting at, actually. So thank you for jumping to Final Jeopardy because I am running out of time. But that's one of the biggest things. I think it would be number 2 or 3 on my list. Is that just because there's a man on a bridge saying, "Guys, down the hill," there is no cocking of the gun. In my opinion, those are leaves crunching. I do believe that there was somebody behind the girls. I do believe that there is a second voice behind the girls. I do. A different person. I really do. And I think that they knew who they were, and I think it was not a big deal to them. It does not seem to me that they were alarmed in any way that they were at the end of the bridge. It almost seems like, yes, Bridge Guy was the one that was kind of, "Oh, hi. I saw you there, but I really wasn't expecting you to come up on me." That kind of hi. But I think there was somebody behind them. I think that there was a guy behind them or a girl, who knows? I do believe that. Maybe his name is Kenneth. Maybe his name is Chris. Maybe they're from Virginia. Maybe they're from Delphi. I don't know. Miss Reba, did they ever try to get any fingerprints off of anything? Off the girls' clothes? You know they did. They did such an excellent job. The crime scene evidence retrieval was just, yeah. They did a lot of things, and they never connected Richard Allen to any of it, except for a bullet that no one knew about, no one heard about, no one was asked about, meaning other perpetrators or other potential suspects were never asked about a damn bullet. Not once. That we know of. Because shit was destroyed, meaning interview tapes, etc. It only came about after they searched Richard Allen's home, and I'm going to put my balls out on the table. I don't give a shit. I have no stake in reputations on this platform with the Delphi case. It is what it is. I have thoughts, and I'm going to share them. They totally could have planted a fake ass we retrieved bullet on February 13th or 14th story and really literally grabbed it out of Richard Allen's house and set it up to make it look like the bullet was always there. And Murder Sheet knows damn well, they know damn well that they're bullshit about. They didn't want the perpetrator knowing this information and kept it a very tightly held secret for all this time, yet the leaks of the photos of the girls got out. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. If you can't even protect photos, the bullet thing would have come out. No doubt. So, that's just my opinion. I don't think they were killed by a box cutter. I think Nick was aware of Ron's old and probable untruthful confessions. Nick had, while the makeup confessed too. Yeah. And that Cora went along with it by giving an opinion. Maybe. They were definitely killed by a sharp, blunt object. So, or a single blade. Wasn't Abby, from my, don't quote me, but I remember hearing that it was basically from ear to ear on hers, like a single cut. So, I mean, maybe. But if he had untruthful confessions, I mean, let me think about this for a second because my brain's spinning now. Untruthful confessions. What is the situation? Is he like Richard Allen giving Haldol? Is he not getting a safekeeping hearing? Is Ron Logan being treated poorly, unfairly? Is he getting his ass kicked? Is he getting stuff shoved up his ass? We don't know. But we damn sure know Richard Allen was getting mistreated and abused and neglected in horrible conditions, improper conditions. So, like, that's a big difference of untruthful confession to me comparing to Ron. Like, Ron was just being an asshole and making up stuff. I don't know. It's hard to believe. I don't know. Or he could be just messing with Walla or whoever he talked to, Core. Maybe he was just trying to be a dick. I don't know. We don't even see Rich Guy say down the hill. Don't know for sure he said that right. It almost sounds like from the original clip that I remember hearing. It sounded like somebody like recorded over it. And if anything, it could be poor Marvin. He doesn't probably deserve this unless he is involved. But Marvin Sandifer sounds like down the hill. Remember, he said some scruffy looking guys. My daughter used to go walk the trails. It could be him. Like, being recorded from like 10 years ago. So I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I'm just, yeah. It pisses me off. The bridge guy thing pisses me off. And that's one of my biggest problems is that bridge guy could be an innocent man minding his business except for to say, there's down the hill. If you didn't know, there is a hill right there. You can go down that hill. Who knows? How was the magic unspent casing even admissible in court? Amen, sister. With no documented chain of custody. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is my number one. The bullet is my number one issue. There's no metadata of the photos being taken of the bullet being pulled out of the ground. That could have been Jim Bob's backyard on a fall day or a February day. That's similar to the Deer Creek area. Like, who knows? Or they went out there and made some fake photos. How do you know? And I have a real problem with the picture. I put it on X. Let's just pull that up. I have a big problem with the way that it's written out on the evidence envelope. Oh, I gotta go to mine. Oh, David Brown. We'll get to David Brown. That's a whole nother live. And no, I have zero remorse for putting that out. People are trying to make me feel bad, but no. Hell no. I do not. Because I know something they don't. By the way, I want to stop and say that I do not care where you sit politically on this channel. I do care about respect, and I stand on respecting Charlie Kirk's family and his passing. It was egregious and horrible. I don't care about all the rest, and that my heart is with the family. Okay, so where is it? I kind of went a little overboard with the um, dispatch audio of Charlie Kirk's assassination. So if you want to go listen to that, that's very interesting stuff. Okay, here it is. Took forever. I have a problem with this. This is the evidence bag, and nowhere do I see a time that this was labeled. Usually, they're supposed to have more information on here. Like, why is there no time? Why is there no chain of custody that details exactly where the bullet, like, who it went to and all that stuff? Chain of custody. Like, where is it? It should be right here that it was at, I don't know, 3:16 p.m. Why is it not there? It should be here. And if not here, it should be somewhere else. I don't know who the fuck wrote all over this thing, but it doesn't make sense. So if you scan this thingy, what does it tell you? Does it tell you what time it left the Lafayette District, Carroll County Sheriff's Office? Like, what does this do? I want to know. So this is a problem. Like, there is nothing that says that this bullet was authentically pulled out of the ground on February 14th. If you can prove it to me, then I will probably shut down and say, poor Richard Allen. Like, sincerely. But if you could prove the metadata of the pictures and who did it, like who pulled it out of the ground and what day it actually was, we'll talk. But this is huge to me. There's no time. There's no time stamp. Hey, Julia. No, my microphone goes in and out sometimes. It readjusts, and yeah, I'm sorry. Who's Marvin? Marvin Sandifer is in the video of the trailer for the live. You'll go watch that. He's an early on interviewee and close by to Ron Logan's prop. Ron did claim mistreatment similar to Rick's, but not as bad. Interesting. You can hear me? Okay. So much time had passed between the murders and RA's arrest, there is no telling what law enforcement did. Quad says, if I recall correctly, Abby's single wound was on the left side. Yeah, Abby's. Of the neck. 1 to 2 inches long at the carotid artery. Please correct me if I'm wrong. No, I think that you're right on that. I think so. Libby's was, man, that's very traumatizing. I saw the leaked photos, not by me asking or somebody sending them to me. They were on Twitter. And somebody, I think, said, sorry, I'm back. Sorry, I have to do this. I don't remember who it was. But I was like, holy shit. And it's like you can't not look once you realize what this is. And yeah, it's brutal for Libby, for both girls, but Libby got it way worse than Abby. It's horrible, very horrible. Okay, I'm praying you recoup Fasty. Thank you. I have missed you as well. Miss Rebug, I don't even see actual lab tape on that for forensic testing. I'm glad you said that. I mean, I see, those little stickers that they print off at the Indiana State Police or some sheriff's office has them, but where's the log? Where's the chain of custody log? Where's that detail? I don't see it. There should have been date, timestamp, pictures of casing. As well as documentation of anyone who found it, handled it. Yes. Chain of custody. Yes. That's so, you know what? The bullet thing is my number one. I would have to say that the bridge guy in itself and how it was portrayed and how it was portrayed at first and the bullshit that went down with that, the video, I think that's number two. I'll stick by that. I know there's a lot of egregiousness, like the FBI, task force having a report that they sent to police and to Nick McClelland, and it never got to the defense, and they had to find out about it. Like, big deal. That's a huge deal, of course. But I don't think it's going to hold as much weight as just the simple things of this trial, because the prosecution's theories don't fucking make sense. And this would prove that, right? This would be an issue. How the evidence was presented and the lack of provability. How could this be admissible? So that was easy. The summary has I've already told you. Those are my number 1 and 2. Honestly, who cares about the rest? Like, all of the other shit's just as egregious, or not as egregious, but it's pretty bad. But again, this verified motion to correct error will basically tell everyone what the issues are and probably what's going to be said, or at least some of it's going to be spoken about in oral argument, or the motion is due, like the response is due from the appellate attorneys. Yep, I think that's good. I think I'm good. Stopping here for tonight. There's all of the Reese Davis handwritten notes. Yeah, I think I'm good here. Because that's a big one. I mean, confessions are confessions. Those are huge. Like, the jury should have been able to hear about those because it's exculpatory. That's a big one. Oh, and Stacey Eldridge. God, that's probably number 3. The phone. We'll go over that next time. We'll do a part 2. Because this one's a big one. Big. And of course, I think Andrew Baldwin was way too nice on the forensics expert from Indiana State Police, because I was like, huh? What do you mean? They had good intention. None of them did. They're all in on it. I think that he was way too nice. I don't think that they meant harm. Well, everybody guilty of framing Richard Allen to me. So thank you guys for listening to me. Yeah, again, the magic bullet bullshit, that's probably, number 1. I'm going to stick on that. Number 1. Absolutely, because I think that the jury had a problem with that and believed that bullet. I mean, my God, it's the only thing that's tying Richard Allen to the crime. But with no evidence that bullet actually was there. And how it got there. It's bullshit. I think somebody took that bullet that went to the search, did the search warrant and either planted it in photos or, they worked together. That's just how I feel. Sue me if I'm wrong. Prove it. Hey, Matthew, good to see you. Are you going live soon? If so, I'll come and hang out and chat. Samantha says, probable cause affidavit for the search warrant was a joke. Good God. We'll get into that another day, too. Jesus, there's so many things wrong. You should support at least Richard Allen's right to appeal this conviction, just the right to do it. Even if you feel like he's guilty, why would you not want him to appeal that It's his fucking right. Everyone has the right to appeal in their minds or erroneous conviction. I am just very worried that this is kind of a state infiltrated thing. You know, rarely do they overturn convictions in this manner, high profile ones. I mean, actually, let me take that back. They usually overturn or reverse the trial, basically repeat trial on these big high profile cases. But what difference is it going to be if they get Judge Gull? Like, what difference is it going to be if they're going to have the same battlefield they had last time? Right? That's what I'm worried about, that it's just going to go right back into his conviction. And like, what then? What then? How about them Cowboys? I have my jersey on right now. Samantha says, plus, if that magic casing was truly Richard Allen's, where's his DNA on it? And why did you fire the round? What kind of bunk ass science is that? You found an unspent round bullet, but it's the appropriate term is round for you fellow gun-toting folks. Okay. An unspent casing, right? Like, then you stick it in there into Richard Allen's gun and fire that bitch. And because of that bunk ass science and matching, and honestly, they don't match. I don't give a shit what anyone else says. They don't match. Go look at the exhibits. They don't. No, they don't. To me, that you're gonna have similar markings, but they're not perfect, and they're not even close to remotely believable to me. Samantha Springman, Gull has had multiple cases overturned for being. That's huge. Yeah, I saw a few. And that is like the best chance. So if you throw in to the algorithm that what is the best possible chance of Richard Allen, or Ask GPT or Gemini, what's the best chance of getting something overturned statistically within this appellate court in Indiana? And it was judges that have a lot more biases or misconduct in some way, of course. The second one would be, what was it? Egregious prosecution, something like that, where the prosecution was way out of bounds, malicious prosecution, and then evidence to support that. Which, in my opinion, this is like the perfect case for that, and there's plenty of evidence of that. And what was the other one? Suppression of evidence, which you have a lot of in this case, where they literally still have not unsealed documents and exhibits that the public has a right to review after this long, and the defense needs them, and the appeal attorneys need them. So there's a lot of issues that I think those at least top three fit. Because Judge Gold does have quite a bit of those. I did see that. And a lot of people use that in case law for cases in the last 3 years. Like, she has popped up on some Supreme Court cases like that were overturned, which is kind of beautiful. That's a good thing for Richard Allen. Matthew says, maybe a late live. Spending time with my dad right now. Awesome. Well, hello, Matt's dad. Y'all have fun. I'll come hit you up later if you go live. But that's all I have right now. I think I'm going to wrap it up. And I really appreciate you guys being patient with me and listening to me blabber on. I'm going to keep fighting for Richard Allen personally on this channel. A lot of people want to go where they feel comfortable, where it's neutral. And I'm not saying that I can't be open-minded. I am open-minded. It's just some things that I see that are just not worth arguing. I'm gonna stand 10 toes down in, and there's no reason to make you feel like I'm not. Like I'm not gonna fake it and try to be neutral for the sake of views or likes or whatever. I want you to know exactly where I stand, and that's how I feel. I feel that Richard Allen was a patsy. He was framed, he was manipulated and used so that the law enforcement in that town could, and Nick McClellan can run for their little offices and their little whatevers to move on. And it's not justice for Abby and Libby. That's how I feel, and that's where I stand. Thanks, everybody. You know, as I say, hug yourself, drink your water. First of all, drink your water. It's important. Brush your teeth. And hug your little ones, hug your fur babies, grandbabies, hug everybody out here. And treat people with respect. Be good. Be good to people that especially don't deserve to be treated ill. Just be good to them. Be good to yourself. Bye, guys.